Happy Forgiveness Friday, everybody. Last week, we talked about how forgiveness is not releasing anybody from accountability. Two completely different things, forgiveness and accountability. This week, we're going to talk about how forgiveness is not a should. Nobody's saying that you should forgive anybody for anything. Forgiveness is not a should. Forgiveness has always been at the heart of this project, Jesse's legacy project, ever since 3 days after Dan killed her. And Joy and I sat in the police station and found out it was Dan. It didn't start as a conscious choice. It was more of an attitude or a spirit, a feeling, an overwhelming, transformative feeling. But within a couple of weeks, after watching the community's reaction to our reaction to this, I realized I had a new calling, and forgiveness became really the center, the most attractive, the most magnetic, and the most powerful piece of this movement to end to end interpersonal violence and presence love in our families, communities, and the planet. But a year or two after we lost Jess and my speaking career had begun, I was at a professional conference in the western part of our state. I think it was La Crosse. There's probably 250 experts there. All of them knew more than I did about this thing, this domestic violence, sexual assault, human trafficking. They were, trained, certified advocates or social workers or law enforcement or mental health or judiciary experts. And I presented a message from Jesse, and it had its usual impact. And then we did an AMA after, because we had time. Ask Me Anything. And near the end, a lady got up, and she was in a reaction to my forgiveness for Dan. She was really mad. She was angry about it and thought it was wrong. And I learned something that day. I learned that forgiveness is not a should. All of you guys know my trauma. Because I've been so public about it for 10 years now, but I don't know yours. Nobody knows yours like you do. And really nobody even knows mine like I do, as public as I've been about it, because all of us are different. I don't know who hurt you and how they hurt you and how bad they hurt you and how it made you feel, how it makes you feel now. I don't know the impacts and the permanent scars it's left. So who am I to tell you you should forgive? I hope nobody ever construes my message or our project's message as saying that you should forgive. Nobody's saying you should forgive. It's an extremely personal thing. Forgiveness is really, really personal. So let's get it out of the realm of judgment and right and wrong. It's not right to forgive and wrong not to. It's also not wrong to forgive and right not to. Forgiveness is not a should. Well, if it's not a should, what is it? Well, we mean it like an invitation. And a true invitation carries with it the complete freedom to accept or decline the invitation. We also mean it not like a should, but like an invitation and like a possibility, just a possibility. You could have 100 possible reactions to somebody hurting you. It could be anger, it could be fear, it could be anxiety and depression, it could be bitterness, it could be resentments held on to for a lifetime like humans do. It could be all those things. Or it could be forgiveness. Each reaction has outcomes. And so in the future, this year on Forgiveness Fridays, we're going to dive deep over long periods of time, one little piece at a time, into the outcomes of forgiveness. And also the outcomes of anger and bitterness and resentment and fear and anxiety. Like I'm talking the physical, physiological, body, health, wellness outcomes. And also the mental outcomes and the emotional and the spiritual outcomes of these things. So next week, we'll begin to talk about the PMES, the physical, mental, emotional, spiritual aspects of forgiveness. Not according to me, the benefits, not according to me, but according to the Mayo Clinic and Duke University and Stanford University and University of Tennessee and Berkeley University and Johns Hopkins and WebMD.com. And why is it by the way, that the Mayo Clinic, one of the premier hospitals on the planet, has stuff on forgiveness. I mean, they must know something about the physical, mental, emotional, psychological, maybe spiritual benefits for health and wellness of forgiveness. So we'll talk about those next week and this year. Meanwhile, you don't have to forgive anybody today. Nobody's saying you should. No one's saying they deserve it. I don't believe Dan does. But you could. You could forgive. So we wish you this week some level of experience of the transformative power of forgiveness. And we hope to see you next Friday on Forgiveness Friday.